Hello, boys and ghouls. Welcome to episode 113 of Dads from the Crypt. My name is Jason, and I'll be your host for this special episode where I will be reviewing The Exorcist the Believer with the writer, co-producer, and actor of Exorcistic, the rock musical, Michael Shaw Fisher. Welcome.
Thank you. I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
On a scale like from 1 to 13, how crazy do we like to get on here? Like with language and,
We
and
go for it,
random
man.
bullshit. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I just want to know, where I'm tied to the bed and where I can roll around the ceiling,
Yeah. So let's start with, I happened to see, I think I saw something on Instagram about this musical that you're putting on, which is the unauthorized rock version of The Exorcist, or about a crew putting on a rock version of The Exorcist that gets possessed themselves.
Right.
And I was like, I need to know more. And you were generous enough to invite me to come to a show. And I'm not a musical, I like music, but I'm not like a musical person. But I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. It was a blast.
Oh man, well that's great. I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, it's a sight to behold. So before we get into the review, tell me about this musical. Tell me where it came from, how you wrote it, what inspired it.
Well, it was originally written for the Hollywood Fringe Festival 10 years ago. Actually 11 years ago, because I was going to do it in 2012. And I was just thinking about, what would be this just insane show that I could do at the Fringe? And nothing seemed more like contrasting logic than to have a rock musical parody of the scariest film of all time, which I'd actually heard at one point they did try to make into a musical. There was this rumor sort of floating around. And at that time, there even were these demos of this, like, it was almost like a country singer who tried to do a musical of The Exorcist.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
like a serious take on it?
Yeah, but it was like, it's terrible. And like, I was like, oh, that'll be so much fun if that was just like a rock musical. Like if that was an all out, sort of methamphetamine rush of humor and just stupidity, but at the same time try to keep some reverence and have a lot of Easter eggs for the fans. And then I just thought of that central image of a possessed girl moving from the stage into the audience in this demented sort of Hedwig and the Angry Inch cabaret and just seducing them and insulting them and just profane and puking and all sorts of craziness. And I'm like, that's the show. Everybody would love to see that show. I would love to see that show.
Yeah.
Even if I wasn't a fan of the movie, I'd love to see that show.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I asked for permission to take pictures and videos, so I didn't feel like a dick while I was doing that, because I just I need to get this is like perfect TikTok, Instagram, reel kind of stuff. Because yeah, she really comes out and it's just like cabaret singing to people down the audience, and I got like a great video of it because she just walked right by me, and I was just like, never seen anything quite like that. And
you're being far too gentlemanly, Jason, for that. By asking ahead of time, I think that show's already in your face. I think you could have, attacked us in many different ways, and it would have been acceptable.
Yeah, well, I have some. I don't want to be like kicked out or possessed or anything by the evil god of bad phone etiquette. Because I don't like when people do that in theaters, so I'm not gonna go into your house and do it either. And what I really enjoyed is, again, the music is actually good. I had some of the songs stuck in my head. I've listened to the soundtrack off of Spotify, but even like during the theatrical performance, there's moments where you take like really mundane scenes and find a way to make it absurd or silly, like the phone gag. I don't know how much I can give away, but
you can talk about it. I mean, that right there is. I mean, that's one of our directors, Chad McMillan. That was his idea. The phone gag was just awesome, and it's played really well here in New York too. It played in L.A. and people just keep responding to it. That insanely long cord that whips over people's heads.
Right. Yeah. So you basically have Reagan McNeil talking on the phone to a doctor. And it's not the most exciting scene in the world, but then you have another actor who's holding onto the base of the phone, and she walks across the stage with obscenely long phone cords. I don't even know where you can get those anymore.
I
And
don't
she
know.
starts walking through the crowd, so the phone cord keeps whacking people in the head.
Yeah, just yeah, just scalping folks, ran
Mm-hmm.
along. No, yeah, it's funny, with a parody, you have to look at the absurdity and in stuff, and really and stuff that people wouldn't usually see, and a lot of that kind of comes down to certain things that we don't even use today, like phone cords. That's
Mm-hmm.
just not a thing. Young generations don't know what they are. It would seem sort of like this absurd prop for you to see it in a film, and now how to use that theatrically. It's weird. There's a lot of things in this movie which just are timeless, and then there are things that you could just pinpoint and say Washington D.C. in the '70s. Okay, so what's that
Yeah.
about? That's people doing coke. That's disco. That's just how do we bring out all of the insanity of that one aspect of the movie?
Yeah, because it's obvious that you do have a severe reverence for the movie, but I think at some point when something is so heralded and like is so serious that like you can just turn it all the way around. Because I'll totally admit I watched Repossessed, the Leslie Nielsen
I've never
parody.
seen it. I've always wanted to see it.
Oh, I saw that before I actually saw The Exorcist, so that was my frame of reference
Oh my
for The
god.
Exorcist going in, because it was on
Oh my.
TV when I was a kid. And I was like, okay, what's going on here?
It's a great title.
No, I think it's actually really good.
Is
That's
it a
like
really good
Ned
movie?
Beatty. It's a really fun. I mean, it's totally silly. It's exactly what you think it is, and that's a good thing. And the fact that um, uh, Linda Blair plays herself in it is just like takes it to a whole nother level. Have you heard from Linda Blair at all about this?
We haven't. Yeah, I don't know if we've reached out to her people or not. But yeah, no, we haven't heard from her. But I know that she was at the Midsummer Scream. Apparently,
Hmm.
she'd made some appearance there, and she might have known that it was happening. But I don't know. I think like Eileen Dietz was also there, and I can imagine how that might have. Eileen Dietz had kind of been connected to our show through the convention,
Hmm.
and maybe the idea of Eileen Dietz being there might have repelled her. I don't
No.
know what their relationship is like,
Yeah.
but from all that controversy back in the day, uh, who knows if that
Uh,
still hangs over 50
yeah.
years later.
So how long is the show going for?
Show's going here until the 23rd.
Hmm.
We've just had some great reviews so far for it here in New York, which is really great. Great word of mouth, really awesome audience feedback, and everyone just seems to be kind of losing their shit for it. So we're going to keep, doing it here, and then we're going to go to I think the in San Francisco. There's Sketchfest,
Hmm.
and I think it's either late January or early February.
Oh
So I think
wow.
we're going to
Okay.
do it there as well.
That's
Try to
awesome.
get everybody crazy about it. Yeah, get it out there.
So why did you bring it back now? Is it because of the new movie, or you just like had a hankering?
Well, the new movie's only, the new movie was timed because of the 50th anniversary. Like,
Hmm.
like we timed ours for the same reason that project was probably timed as well
Right.
for 2023. But also, I wanted to make sure that I got the album done, that we put up the show in Los Angeles, and then we did the show in New York. That was kind of like a 1, 2, 3 punch for the team. Um, I don't think there's any aspect of this that could have existed without the other to some
Yeah.
extent. Try to push its
Yeah.
success.
Well, it seems like it's very successful. Like I said, I'm not a musical person by any stretch or a theater person. I think the last thing I saw in the last like 20 years was Book of Mormon. Um,
Yeah.
and I thought
Never
I had
seen that.
another time at this. I think I'll say that.
Well, let me say this for anybody out there who's thinking that the musical theater give me a break. I'm actually really not, though I do write musical theater. I really don't listen to a tremendous amount of it. Like I'm not like I'm not going to sit here and try to school you on like the big shows on Broadway right now because I don't know what they are. And there's a lot of really prominent Broadway composers who I could not care less about. I do love Stephen Sondheim. I do
Yeah.
love Sweeney Todd. I think that's like the coolest musical ever made. But I'm like, I'm very much of the school of I love Hedwig and the Angry Inch. I like that, just those sort of rock out drag shows. I love
Hmm.
rock musicals that actually do rock, like Passing Strange. Uh, what's some other ones that just are so fantastic? Um, well, I love Little Shop of Horrors. I think that's a
Hmm.
great musical. Totally listen to that any day of the week. But I'm just weird. Like I'm not a musical theater snob, you know.
Right.
So I try to make music that's accessible to people who don't like musicals, who just would like turn on a song, be like, "Does this rock?"
No, it does. I went with a couple of friends, and yeah, we all were like blown away. And I was inappropriate. I was singing some of the inappropriate songs, humming it while I was like walking my kids to school. I'm like, oh wait, it was like stuck in my head because what there's the your mother sucks cock in hell.
Oh yeah,
Um,
the
yeah,
famous reprise of the
yeah,
show.
yeah. I know. Like it's every time I can't remember the actress name. Every time she comes out as her mother, as his mother, I just lost it.
Oh yeah, that's right, Gabby Sanalitro. Yeah, she comes
Mm,
out as the mom. So that was so funny the way they did
yeah,
that. It's just crazy.
yeah. And what's funny is because her and one of the other directors, I think, were just standing around with clipboards, and I thought they just worked at the club. Was it three clubs? Three of clubs?
Three
And
clubs, yeah.
I didn't realize that they're part of the cast. I just started talking to them, like, when does it start? You can give me some information. I was just trying to figure out what the deal was. And then they
Oh
just
yeah.
get up on stage and start acting like, oh, okay. They really blended in.
Well, that's kind of the thing. People come in, they don't know what to expect. They think it's going to start off with like da 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 da, and here we go. And it's like instead, it starts off with people talking, like, "Hey, what's up? Is this thing going to start? Hey, oh, hey there, how you doing? Thanks for showing up. We're waiting on an actor here. Everyone just chill
Yeah.
out for a minute." And it all just becomes very natural.
Hmm.
This conversation with the audience, being like, "Hey there, I'm Michael Shaw Fisher. I'm a composer, blah blah blah." And when we're doing a reading, that's all this is, just a reading. And so people are like in the audience, like, "Wait, what is this?" And then as they kind of go and it becomes the show and it becomes the show
Yeah, it's
bigger,
very the
the
show
third,
within the show.
then it's like, oh man, like no one knows what the hell they're seeing, and it's just everything's getting crazier and crazier with passing um, each passing number.
Right. And then the whole, vomit spray
yeah,
blowing. Was that leaf blower?
yeah, yeah,
That was
yeah.
great.
That was a pretty great trick. That was David Haverty who came up with that trick. Our our principal has been our photographer through this process, but also he has ties with this show going back 10 years. So he had this thought in his head, which he was very kind to share.
Nice. Well, we're here to talk about the new Exorcist movie, so let's hop into that.
Let's talk
Um,
about it, man. What do you think?
well, first I'm gonna do a plot synopsis review. I'm just
Okay.
gonna read off of Wikipedia. We're gonna be in spoilers, but just to kind of level set everything. So again, reading straight from Wikipedia. In Haiti, photographer Victor Field and his pregnant wife Serene, blessed by a voodoo practitioner, are on their honeymoon until a massive earthquake ensues. Serene is gravely injured, and paramedics tell Victor he must choose to save either his wife or his unborn child, Angela. 13 years later, Victor has lost his faith in God since Serene's death while raising Angela on his own. One day after school, Angela ventures into the woods with her Baptist friend, Catherine, to perform a ritual in an attempt to contact Angela's mother. Victor realizes his daughter is missing and contacts Catherine's parents, Miranda and Tony, as a 3-day manhunt ensues. The girls are later found in the barn, though traumatized, they seem relatively normal and taken home, having only suffered burn marks on their feet. The next day, Angela suddenly attacks Victor and begins convulsing, while Catherine has an outburst in church. Victor admits Angela to the hospital where their nurse neighbor Anne attends to her. And Miranda begins to theorize that the girls traveled to hell and brought back a demon with them, hence the burns on their feet. The girls' conditions worsens as their burns become more severe. Anne convinced that Angela is possessed after she reveals her knowledge of Anne's training as a nun and her abortion. Therefore, she gives Victor a book written by Chris McNeil, who experienced a similar situation with her daughter Reagan in 1973. Chris has spent her life researching exorcisms in every culture while becoming world renowned for her studies. However, Reagan became distant from her mother due to the memoir's success and has not seen her since. Victor searches for Chris and takes her to the hospital to see Angela before going to Catherine's home. While Victor attends to Miranda and Tony, Chris goes upstairs and begins to perform her own exorcism on Catherine. Catherine stabs Chris multiple times in the eyes with a crucifix, blinding her. She's rushed to the hospital. Victor, Miranda, Tony, and Anne reach out to the church and Father Maddox for an exorcism. Chris advises Victor to use methods from all different cultures and religions, and the group seeks the help of Dr. Behab, a root healer, the Catherine's Family Baptist pastor, and Stewart, a Pentecostal preacher. The group plans an exorcism, but the local diocese forbids Maddox from participating. The girls are tied to chairs, and the group proceed with the exorcism. The devil reveals that Victor did not choose to keep Angela alive 13 years ago. He chose Serene, but she died from her injuries. The demon tells him that he needs to choose which of the girls gets to live and which will die. And if a choice is not made, he will kill both of them. While Miranda and Victor refuse to choose to forsake each other's child, Maddox, who has a change of heart, rejoins the group. Maddox reads from the Roman ritual only for the demon to snap his neck and kill him. As Victor apologizes to Angela and uses Serene's scarf to attempt to strengthen her connection with her mother against the demon, Tony yells that he chooses Catherine, and Angela flatlines. Suddenly, the demon reveals the one that was chosen will be the one who died. Catherine screams for her parents as the demon drags her to hell, while Angela starts to breathe. Police arrive as Miranda and Tony fail to resurrect Catherine, and Victor tearfully reunites with his daughter. In the aftermath, Victor visits Serene's grave, Miranda and Tony mourn the loss of Catherine, and Angela returns to school. In the hospital, Chris is reunited with Reagan, who forgives her mother, and they emotionally embrace. The end.
Well, spoiler alert.
Yeah, so all that, yeah. Like I said, we're reviewing it. You can't. I think this is the kind of thing you're gonna have to spoil.
Out. Absolutely not. No, for sure.
So, what did you think?
Well, all right. My thoughts are this. I think there's one important element missing to the film, and that is really the idea that it's this thing that Max von Sydow says in his character, Father Merrin says in the original Exorcist. And by the way, and I'm going to preface all of this by saying that even though I love the original Exorcist, like I worship it as being not just one of the best horror films ever made, but one of the best films ever made. Like on tier with like the Godfather films. Like, even though I feel that way, it's not necessarily the element. I'm not saying it had to be that good. But the question are, what are the elements that made it that good? And some people would say, oh, it's the fact that we'd never seen a girl become possessed before. We'd never seen a teenager become possessed, and that was so shocking. It wasn't just that. Stephen King had made a comment that The Exorcist was really a commentary on the fact that America was changing, that youth's relationship with its parents was changing. This had come out of the 60s. Counterculture was born in the 60s. Exorcist was 73. It wasn't too long after the birth of all of this. People were frightened for their children. It was tapping into something that was really sort of a deep psychological hang-up of sort of a conservative America, to see its youth, taking drugs and having sex and all of that kind of stuff.
Being consumed by,
So it was, in a way, making a cautionary tale about all of that stuff, at the same time, imbuing it with something that, I don't know, I felt it was truly shocking. And if you watch The Exorcist now, it is still as shocking. You will not see a person stabbing their crotch with a bloody crucifix in any film now at all. It won't happen. And to me, that's where they dropped the ball. I've read reviews and I haven't seen one review mention this. They're all like, it's not scary enough. I'm like, define scary.
Right. Scary is subjective.
What is that? It doesn't disarm you. It doesn't shock you. A better Exorcist movie was Lars von Trier's Antichrist. That was a better Exorcist movie because that shocked me, right? Like that disturbed me. What Defoe and Ginsberg did with their performances in that movie completely broke my brain. Like, so I think, and heck, Talk to Me, that horror movie that came out this year, fantastic, shocked me. Have a lot of questions about that movie, but we're not talking about that one. Specific, what I'm saying is, what they needed to do was to not hang upon the established genre that it had created, but instead aim for the legacy that nobody had been able to create, right?
Right, because you're right. Because The Exorcist, since that movie, any possession movie is just cribbing from that. There hasn't been like you can tell different ways. Like The Last Exorcism is a really clever way to frame it, or The Exorcism of Emily Rose is a great way to take that. But yeah, every movie still kind of has those same beats, those same
But even though
patterns.
The Exorcism of Emily Rose is still a much more intelligent film because it's an anti-exorcism movie where she's just mentally ill. So that's playing on the established tropes of the exorcism.
Yes.
And being like, guess what? None of that's real, guys. She was tied to a bed and starved by these priests and abused, and her death is a tragedy. That's why that movie works in a much more modern way than what just came out in 2023. And that movie, Exorcism of Emily Rose, was like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is insane. So my big thing is, it's making it an Exorcist movie. It doesn't matter if it's Catholic. It doesn't matter if it's any of these things, although Blatty probably would disagree. The big thing for me is shock me. Show me something that is shocking now and will always be shocking. Make me lose my faith in God. Make me say, this is exactly what Max von Sydow says. The devil wants us to lose our faith that there's any goodness in us. If you don't find a scene or two and fight for it with the studio the way that Blatty did when it comes to stabbing yourself with the crucifix or whatever, the head turning around or whatever, grabbing the mom's face and forcing her to lick it. Like, if you don't fight for those things, which are going to truly unnerve a person, then all you're doing is doing lip service to the original, which too many films have already done.
Yeah.
That's my big overall.
So let me ask you this. If this was not a cool Exorcist movie, if it was just like The Believer, not tied to the original at all, would you think this is a good movie, an okay movie?
Oh, that's a great question. I think it would be garbage. I mean, if it didn't have the IP, I mean, if it didn't have that moment with the mother and the daughter at the end, or bringing
if you take out that all the Chris McNeil stuff and just make it a random possession movie.
But hold on, no, I don't know if it would be garbage because I got to give some major respect to Leslie Odom Jr. because such an incredible, wow, what a performance! Like, he is a really incandescent actor. Yeah. Like, he's so just from the heart, and I loved him. Like, I loved his relationship with his daughter, and for that reason, I can't disregard the movie, even if it didn't have all those Exorcist things that I, of course, am geeking out about. Also, it amazes me that they didn't stay true to the shock element of the original Exorcist because A, it's so obvious, but B, because they also went for a lot of the nuance of the original film. The first act or whatever that is,
Yeah.
that's a lot of pacing. It's very close to the original. And certain people won't like that, but I really thought it was well done. There was some real, film student researching the master Friedkin, being like, okay, can I keep it low here, low here, low here, low here, car horn. You know what I mean? Like just calming everyone down,
Well,
street drilling. Yeah, and then you're like, all these jarring things that come out of nowhere.
yeah, one of the things that I thought was kind of baffling is that they tried to make it tense the entire way through with no levity. It's like
Yeah,
you can't expect an audience for like a 2-hour movie to be at like an 8 or a 9, or like to try, like there was no breakups. Like even in the original Exorcist, there's like little like gags and things, like little jokes
really
kind of
true.
peppered through to like the whole Carl character, when he's like see no rats.
They have
There's
no
like
rats.
that scene in the attic, which is really tense, really scary, and then there's that big kind of shock with a fling, and then he just kind of shows up. See no rats.
And she's
Like
like, yeah, you're right.
you need to have like, I feel like you need to have an elevation, but they need to have like kind of a letdown to relieve the pressure. Where I think here they were trying to keep the pressure so high that at one point you just kind of lose it.
That's a really great observation. I think, like, yes, absolutely, because who was more of a fan of comedy than Blatty himself?
Right.
You know, William Peter Blatty wrote and was fired by Mel Brooks because Mel Brooks didn't like his style. But I think that he set out to be a comic writer, and then he just happened to, after selling scripts and making a living at writing comedy, sold this book called The Exorcist, which exploded.
Mm-hmm. So
But
I'm not saying the film needed jokes per se that to be funny, but it needed something to relieve the pressure and then build it back up.
well, that was the thing about Blatty. He didn't do jokes like he
Mm-hmm.
did repartee,
Yeah.
like between the detective and the
Yeah, the
Exorcist
detective character, exactly.
and Father Karras. And
Yeah.
Father Karras is like the whole like I lied. You look like Sal Mineo.
Yeah,
Just like
exactly.
you're right. The levity is so human because even Hamlet is funny.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, there's like no levity. And I'm saying I'm not saying it needs like to be saccharine, but like it
Yeah.
needs something to kind of relieve the pressure a little bit to build it back up. Because again, as an audience, to be at like such a high level the entire time, I think at some point you just kind of lose it.
Yeah,
Um
sure.
so to go to my answer my own question, I thought
Yeah.
this would be an okay movie if it wasn't an Exorcist movie. It'd be
Yeah.
some good performances. But again, if you're going to tie it to the Exorcist IP, I didn't think there was enough to justify it being a cool Exorcist movie. You brought Chris McNeil back, and then you sideline her very quickly.
Yeah.
I thought she was. I guess they were trying to set us up to think that she was going to be the Exorcist.
Right.
Which okay, I'd be into that. Let's see how she's able to step up to the task. But then no, we're going to sideline her almost immediately.
Yep.
And I couldn't really find any. There was no setup for. And again, I don't need like a ton of setup for like a whole trilogy like Marvel does. We don't need like extraneous characters or scenes to kind of set up the larger world. But like one line could have been like, well, that was one demon, but there's more.
Right.
Or so I didn't catch this at all in the movie, but everything I've read from other people that the demon in this one is Lameshtu, who is at one point let's see, the lover of Pazuzu, the demon from the original movie, which again isn't, depending on which canon you go by.
That could have been
So,
interesting. Yeah.
so yeah, why not say like this is a competing demon with the original demon? Like instead of one girl, he's going after two girls. I'm gonna up. It's like some sort of demon upmanship. Like I want a whole network of demons or something. The demon didn't really have any personality. Where in the original Exorcist, he's like sitting there having conversations with the demon and stuff. And he's like, hey, do you want me to do an exorcism? Oh yeah, that'd bring us together.
Yeah.
Good oregano, you and me. Like there's no parts of that to give the demon like a personality other than just generic possession.
Yeah, and all of the things that we see with them, like, talking about the abortion, being like, "Oh, scrape, scrape," like you're just like, come on, like I've heard this a million times, like who is this person? Does it want to get to know any person in the room?
Mhm.
And why does the demon want to get to know this person? Because just breaking a person's neck is not the ultimate corruption. It's
Right.
getting into their demons. It's getting into Father Karras's mother's, what happened with his mother. That is where the demons roll like a swine in mud, like just has the joy of just writhing in filth. Like where is that horror?
Mhm.
All the mistakes that we've made. And I think like instead he has to face the mistake that he made as a plot point that's central to the existence or the continued existence of one of these girls. But that is something that could have been played on earlier
Yeah,
because
it could have been taunting him the whole time about it. You could have drawn that out.
they gave it up for a twist. That's what they
Right.
did. And at that point they'd lost their audience, so it didn't really matter so
Right.
much.
And again,
But
the concept of the dual possession, okay, that's kind of interesting.
yeah,
But we didn't get to know the other girl, Catherine, at all. We had no clue who she is or she was like. For all we know, she could have been, not that far off from, that crazy to start off with. We don't know, were they actually friends? Because at one point they're like, our daughters don't know each other, but then she's going, they're acting friendly. Like, the ordeal just comes off as more hollow because we only have a connection with one of the girls. And again, I
so
don't want a 3-hour version of this movie, but like just a little bit. Give us a little. Was this like a bully that like convinced Catherine to come out there, or convinced Angela to
well,
come out there? Like, what was their relationship before, and what was she like before? Because those scenes of Reagan, in The Exorcist, like as a sweet child, is what endears us to her and makes it even more tragic.
right. And like honestly, is there ever really any question which of these girls is gonna die? I mean, it's like one of them starts off getting a protection spell. That's
Yeah.
like the opening scene of the thing. She's the central character. She's the one who the dad, like that relationship is the central relationship to the whole thing. Um, if you really want to make us feel that there's going to be this question, then you have to give, like you said, a little bit more to the otother girl so that
Hmm.
there is a more than just the bare minimum. When we get down to actual like holes in it, the things that don't make sense. If your wife is like 9 months pregnant, you're not going to be traveling in some
Yeah.
foreign country. I'm sorry, you're not. Like it just doesn't. Like I had a hard time traveling across the country with my wife in a car. Not even getting out, not even drinking food that wasn't part of this country. You're drinking water from another country or whatever. I was close. We were close to hospitals. We knew what we were doing. And my wife was maybe like 7 months pregnant at that
Hmm.
time. Didn't believe that. I didn't believe. Let's talk about plot holes here. I didn't believe, first of all, that he just got into a car and could drive however long it took. Maybe it was just an hour to wherever Rachel McNeil was. Or not Rachel
Yeah.
McNeil.
Chris.
Chris Chris McNeil, who's just in her little beach house. Her daughter's completely written her off. Um, to me, that also I didn't believe, given the closeness of their relationship in the first film. Even
Yeah.
though I understand like what they're how they justified it as being like, oh well, she didn't want anything to do with that. Um, to have no contact with a parent, your only real parent, is that's a serious choice. But then also the fact that she, knowing that her daughter Reagan was like had to be tied to a bed because she could make stuff fly around the room, which no longer happens, by the way. In this, none of these entities can do this anymore, apparently. But things are flying around the room, bookshelves falling on her mom, all sorts of crazy stuff in the original Exorcist. She needed to bring in these learned men who even they got killed. Both of them. And she walks in there. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know this child. I don't know the case at all. I'm going to walk in there and just be like, oh, hey, I'm just going to start being like, I know you. And it's all just, it's all so contrived. And,
Right.
and it isn't justified at all. And I'm like, okay. And now she gets her eyes stabbed out, which is, of course, it's gross, but it's nothing insane. I'm like, man, it's
Yeah.
just stupid. It's like, why did this person walk into the room to do this? And why are they now taken out? And what was the point of all of this?
Yeah.
Why
Like,
does this make any sense?
well, I mean, for a movie called The Exorcist, who is the Exorcist in this movie?
All right. Right.
It's not the possessed. Like the movie's not called The Possessed. It's or the father of the possessed. It's the Exorcist. So which person? Because none of them actually really matter or step up or like have any. Yeah.
Yeah, no one
One
does.
thing I did like, and this is more just my personal belief, is the plurality that they try to bring up, where they say
Yeah.
like Chris McNeil like said like the aspect of every exorcism is that it needs to be like a community thing, which again they usually hide from communities, but just saying that it needs to be multiple, like a group of people need to come
Yeah.
together. Which I like the idea because I think pretty much every culture to some degree has some form. They don't call it exorcism or demons or whatever, but they have some sort of cleansing rituals.
Yes.
So I would have loved to see that taken way further than they did. Like they brought, was it 2 or 3 priests, and the other woman who I don't, I'm ignorant about this, but I don't know exactly what religion she was practicing. I don't want to say voodoo because that feels not right, but I even think she mentioned
Right.
some Christian scripture when she was doing her. I mean, she was doing like picking up roots and things and making tinctures, which is cool. I like that, but like,
Did you say
why
she
not
was
bring
making? Did you
in
say she was making T-shirts?
no tinctures
Oh.
I don't want to say potions because again that sounds
Oh. Okay. Okay. That's
I
also
don't
like
want to be
she's out there. She's out
I
there
don't want to
making
be reductive.
T-shirts. She's
No,
just like, stay
save
clean,
Reagan, save Ferris.
demon free.
Um, so I will I like that idea. Again, there's a couple
Yeah.
small kernels of ideas, but I
Yeah.
don't think like they took it any near far enough. Um, now,
Yeah.
have you seen the Exorcist TV show?
Oh yeah, I like that.
I watched the first season just like last week, and it's way better than this.
Way
That
better.
is exactly because it does the same kind of thing where it brings together some legacy characters, but gives them a reason, it gives them motivation. It's natural
Yeah.
to the plot, and they set up a larger world, but without being too hammy about it. Yeah, maybe that show took all the best ideas.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the Chris McNeil character on that show was kind of wasted. That was the
A
only
little
big
bit,
issue.
but at least she like had some, but I felt like it was
It was
justified
better.
in what they did. Yeah, better
I mean, it was
integrated.
it was infinitely better. I mean, like
Yeah.
no question, no question. Yeah, you have a little bit of the plurality thing. We have the two sisters, and one is the one you are expecting to be bad, and the other one you're expecting to be the good sister, and she ends up being the
Yeah, they
possessed one.
switched it. Yeah.
Did you
Or I
you
thought
haven't seen the second season of that yet?
I haven't seen the second season yet.
I actually really liked the second season. I remember them talking about it, being like, "We knew we were going to get canceled, so we just decided in the second season we would make a season that we like and that we're proud of, even if it does depart a lot from the first season." But I really think the second season works as well.
No,
Uh,
I kind of like when things are more self-contained. We're like, okay, we're done with that story. Let's with these characters. Let's move on. Not like they're going to get possessed again, but there's another plot to do this
yeah,
and that. So I'm
completely.
glad. Well, like, 'cause I was looking at IMDb and I saw that like a lot of those characters were only in the first season. Like, okay, I'm happy for that.
Oh, for sure. It was a show that I think it kind of came out right when streaming was starting to blow up, and it was sort of pushed to the shoulder because it was a
Mm.
network show. Um, but it's a good show, man.
Yeah, but
Definitely.
I'm just wondering if they looked at that and they said, "Damn it, they took all the good ideas we can steal here and there," but because that again, that would have been a great plot for a movie. But I guess they
Yeah,
might have thought people would get mad at them redoing that. Um, but and again, not to I don't want to kick this movie too much while it's down, but like it only has a few big CG like parts
yeah,
sequences. They don't look good at all. Like I don't understand how you mess up like a myth or a cloud or
yeah,
whatever. Like it looks like something from 20 years ago, like a PS2.
yeah. It's PS2. Yeah, that's true. It's
And that's
interesting
giving it
too.
credit over PS1.
Well, we didn't get any of the demon either.
Well,
Um,
those quick subliminal flashes, which okay, fine, and they look cool, I guess. But yeah, I kind of want
right.
to. See, I'm interested to see some production pictures of what that thing actually looked like.
Apparently, they had another cut that they were passing around. Uh, Chad, co-director, producer here, um, was he said that he saw a screening and that it was a lot more demon heavy. That
Hmm.
you saw more of the demon. It was more of a character. Um, so I would be interested to see what that footage is. But as a purist, not necessarily a purist, but if I were to be a purist, I would say stick to the original. Less is more when it comes to that demon stuff. But
Right.
it is interesting that they
But
had
then,
this, and they up to the end, they were just going back and forth about like how much they should show.
yeah, because then it become like a Conjuring movie or what's the other one?
Insidious.
Insidious. Yeah, 'cause then it'd be more Insidious territory where you have the demon kind of running around a lot more. Or they go into a further
But
because
that's also where their Blumhouse audience is,
right,
and that's
exactly.
meeting them at the expectation. I think that's what he liked about it. That's like his sort of thing. That's the thing. You you can't take something like The Exorcist, in my opinion, which is a theological exploration
Yeah.
about the mystery of faith and the mystery of evil, and give it a treatment that's too formulaic. You have to approach it with a sense of reality in order to get into people's nerves, in order to, like in the case of Friedkin, he did it perfectly by getting the, um, by capturing the documentary style, the cinema verite, having Fidel Castro's cameraman who filmed the revolution in Cuba. That cameraman just filming the scenes and capturing what he saw coming to life. Uh, So it's like that scene from Alien where they're all sitting around the table right before the alien pops out of the guy's chest and they're all just talking.
Hmm.
And no one has any specific focus. There's no like cut to my face for my line, cut to your face, Jason, for your line. It's just like we're babbling back and forth, babbling back and forth. And boom, something happens. That is a style of cinema I feel that could have very much benefited this whole thing.
Right.
So it feels less deliberate. It feels more natural. Where is the evil coming from? It's
Hmm.
watching us. It's ever present. It's
Well,
lulling us into a sense of confidence.
yes. And evil is always scarier when it's coming from normality. Because
Yeah,
again, and that's what I was saying earlier, where I feel like the movie is already at like like an 8 the entire
yeah,
time. There's no like naturality in it. Like the girls are walking off in the forest, you know something bad's gonna happen. Like
yep.
you're already primed for it. There's no, I don't know. Like even the Haiti part, which I was like, okay, this is kind of mimicking when they're in, I think it's Iraq or Iran. I always forget.
Yeah,
Um, and like there's a forebodingness there. But okay, fine. We know that that's coming.
yeah, and
But
that's true to the original
mhm,
film too, right? In
right,
that opening scene
but
with her in Iraq.
then right, but then we take it back down. I mean, and then we have the Chris McNeil and Reagan dynamic, which is the anchoring part of the movie.
Yeah,
And I guess I don't know. It did not establish that, especially if you're going to do two girls, you need to establish that for twice, or else you just don't care about the other girl. And the shocking ending, it doesn't have any weight to it.
yeah. Well, right, exactly. And I think the weird thing about this movie is that it had a bit of what we're talking about, like you just said. Like even in that opener, there was a fair amount of just them being him and his wife being easy. Her performance was lovely.
Hmm.
Like there was so much levity in all of that. And then the earthquake hits, drops everything down to this high level of drama. Then we get back to uh, modern times, and we get the family, and like there's this wonderful quality between him and his daughter, which I really like. I really believe their relationship. And then, I don't know, man. It was somewhere around. I think it was somewhere around where Chris comes in. Really, that they suddenly just did a complete track switch to like, okay, how do we make this Blumhouse horror? How do we make this more about, you know, not even anything really shocking, but just sort of like a steady gratuity, gratuitous violence increase without any actual precision dramatically.
Right. Um, one thing I did find funny is Ann Dowd is in this movie,
Oh yeah,
who's a great character
when in
actress.
doubt, yeah.
When in doubt. Yeah, because she's also in Hereditary, which is probably the closest movie to The Exorcist. When you want
Oh,
to
there you
get into that genre.
another great Exorcist film. Yeah, for sure.
Um, so I don't know if they were like, well, maybe if we put Ann Dowd in it, we're already like halfway there.
Yeah, she's always good. There were a couple cuts which I couldn't believe that they kept that take with her talking. Um, like once we get into like the latter half of the thing,
Hmm.
like some of the performances even fell apart. Like it was like I could see them being like, "What? What are you saying? You're not coming inside, Father?" And the priest, like
Right.
Father Maddox, being like, "I'm not. I'm not. I'm acting. I'm acting. I'm not going to
Yeah.
go inside." And he was terrible.
Yeah. His whole character, I'm baffled. If that was supposed to be like a fake out for the audience, but it's like, come on.
Because you want
Like,
to fake us out, then make him Max von Sydow and then kill him. Like that.
right.
That like you can't give us somebody who's already pretty ineffectual, even at his acting craft, and then all of a sudden give that person the authority of this whole thing. Then put him in a car, and he's not going inside, just waiting in the car, chickening out. Then he finally goes inside and he gets killed. I never had any faith in this person. He
Right.
never, the fact that he was the priest was not enough authority for me to think this guy's the answer.
I will say Leslie Odom Jr.'s line, like, the fight's in there. That was good. I like that line delivery.
Oh,
That's
that,
pretty
you know
badass.
what? In that whole stilted conversation, that was truly the only great line. I mean, that
Hmm.
was no. I wanted to. It was just. It came out of nowhere. I'm like watching this conversation. I'm like, these words. Have these people ever spoken before? And Dowd, have you ever like said English? And then all of a sudden, Leslie's like, "I know my line. That's it." And I was like, "Oh, that was cute. That was beautiful."
Hmm. Yeah.
Nuts, nuts.
Um, yeah, I don't know where they're gonna go from here because it's supposed to be a trilogy, so maybe they're gonna go try back to save Catherine's soul. Maybe hope I didn't know Linda Blair was gonna be in this. So, okay, that moment, okay. It
Did you?
was,
Did it not get you? Did it not get
it
you?
was manipulative as hell, but
Yep.
even though Linda Blair cussed me out once, I was at a convention and I think she was just in a bad mood or something caught her at a bad
Really?
time.
Oh no.
And I asked her for something and she just was like, no. She's kind of, I give her a pass because she's been through a lot. When you're a child actor of that magnitude of that movie,
Yeah.
you've been through some shit. So I was like, okay, she's having a bad moment. I'll write that one off. So, but to see her on the film, okay, and again, I didn't know she was going to be in it. That kind of like, okay, it's totally manipulative, but fine, I'll give it that.
I cried. I actually
Did
cried,
you?
and I was so mad too that I cried. And
You're like,
it,
got me.
no, they nailed me. It was so. It was just to see them on screen together. Ellen
Yeah.
Bernstein. Oh my gosh! And I was upset because the film had been shown outside the screen. Like there was a screen, but then the film was bleeding over, so I was like losing some portion.
They didn't fix the aspect ratio.
And they couldn't stop it, so they just kept doing it. And they gave me a free pass for it, but
Okay.
at the end, I had to go get my free pass, but I was sobbing from the movie, so I had to kind of like cover up that the movie didn't affect me and put on my sunglasses and be like, "That's right, the movie sucked. I hated it. Give me my pass," because I still feel I deserved it. But man, that moment.
It doesn't make up for the whole movie, but it's a moment, and it gets you as fans. Like, never thought you would see that. Never in a million years I think we'd see that.
It's
So
like,
okay, fine, you did it. You did the thing.
gosh, it's like there was certain things they had to do, and that was one of them. Really, it's like they had to do it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, how badass would have been if like Reagan showed up at the end of the exorcism scene, and she was the one that like picked it up or something like that. That would have got me out of my seat. I'm like, okay, fine, just whatever came
Yeah,
before. And
that'll be the
maybe
next
they're
film.
saving that. I think it's one of those things. You either shoot yourself in the foot by holding back too much, or you give away too much, and then you don't have anything for the next couple movies. But
So,
you should always make the best movie you can, on the movie you're making, and figure out the rest later. But
hey, what do you think is going to be the name of the third film? The
I
second
think
one's Deceiver.
Oh, Deceiver.
Deceiver's the
I have
second
no
one.
idea.
So
I mean, it's
maybe it'll
funny.
either be Perceiver,
Believer,
Receiver,
Deceiver,
or how about
Receiver.
Redeemer? Redeemer.
Okay, Redeemer. There you go. You got it.
Is that it?
Um, gosh,
It's not a. It's not. I want to say that at the end of the day, I was still glad I saw it. I gave it like I fluctuate between C plus, and C minus daily for this film,
mm-hmm.
but it still gets a C, which is not a D.
Yeah, I mean, again, if they hadn't called it Exorcist, I'd be like, okay, that's like a B, whatever, somewhere around there.
Right.
But because they kind of like they kind of like wrote themselves into a corner on that one, or produced themselves. I don't know what you call it. They cornered themselves by calling it an Exorcist movie, because that brings so much magnitude to it. And again, I know that it's the IP, but they spent like $400 million.
$400 million
just for the IP for 3 movies, and they're obligated to make 3 movies. So,
well, it's not just for the movies, right? It's also for Halloween Horror Nights, Universal.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how that's all tied. I was saying for Blumhouse paid $400 million from Morgan Creek to make this movie.
No. I'm just saying, like the IP has uses for them beyond just the films.
Yeah. Well, I'm just like, oh, this is the best. Yeah. No, and I guess sometimes we have expectations and you have a deadline. There's like I do IT project management. Sometimes there's a graph that says you can either have something cheap and quick but not good. You have something good and cheap but not quick. You have something quick but not good but cheap. You can't have all 3.
Right. It's amazing though that, I mean, I think that they just went with David Gordon Green.
Mm-hmm.
But I get Halloween. I get that Halloween was a success for them. But I would not hire the same director who did the original Halloween, John Carpenter, to direct The Exorcist. Yeah. And I wouldn't get William Friedkin to direct Halloween.
Right.
These are not interchangeable voices.
And especially putting the Halloween template that they found success with on the Exorcist movie. Who would you get to have done this?
To have done this?
Yeah, and let's take out Lars von Trier and Ari Aster, just since we already mentioned them.
Robert Eggers.
Okay, yeah, he's my next. Robert Eggers. Jordan Peele could have done something interesting with this. I mean, we're just kind of like cherry picking the best. Or
I think Jordan Peele stylistically, I mean, in terms of the comment, Jordan Peele would have found a much more interesting thing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I also feel like Jordan Peele, like he has this. What's also interesting, he's got this like kind of chameleon quality when it comes to, like how he slips into genres. I would be interested to see how he slipped into the Exorcist genre,
Yeah.
because of the sort of clearly Spielbergian influences of Nope. You know, um, I'd be like, I know that this would have a very different feel to it. It would be interesting.
Have
Person who I
you
feel like has it in his bones would be
mhm.
Eggers.
Have you seen a movie called The Dark Song?
No.
Okay, I'm gonna recommend that one because that is an indie, very low budget movie that is, I think, is emotionally beautiful. And that's
2016.
yeah, go watch that. I think that director could have really done something interesting. But again, this is all just what ifs.
That looks interesting. I'm looking at it right now. That looks really interesting.
Yeah, give it a watch. You'll you'll have thoughts after watching that movie. It's one of my favorite movies of the last like 10 years, as
Oh,
far as
wow.
this kind of movie. It's just well, in the fact that I just like it talks to you. It really gets to your soul. All right, let's wrap this up a little bit. Again, this is a special episode, so I'm kind of changing the format a little bit. But one of the things we do like to do here at Dads in the Crypt is dad advice. You have a young child, you are, going cross country. What parenting advice would you give to our audience?
But going cross country with a toddler?
Yeah, or just
Oh,
living the theatrical life as a parent.
theatrical. Yeah, I mean, gosh. I would say, for the sake of your own sanity, don't stop doing things creative just because you have a little person.
Mm.
Um, sure, you might not be able to always be able to afford the babysitter to keep him from charging headlong into a wall of the theater where you're rehearsing. Um, my kid was raised in theaters, that theater that you were at, Three Clubs in LA. That kid has eaten off that nasty floor where, like, the night before, people were like walking in there with drinks and, walking around there. I mean, he's just run amok in that place.
Hmm.
He's been in there. My wife has a burlesque company called Cherry Poppins. He's been around like all the burlesque dancers and stuff when they're rehearsing and, doing all their sexy dances and stuff like that. He's just hanging out, doing whatever. He's a cool little guy. But no matter what it is, don't stop doing your art. Don't stop creating something, even if it is, you're at home and you're a writer and you write horror, or you make comics or whatever it is. It's your thing. Don't stop doing it just because you have a kid. But at the same time, you got to make sure that you do give that kid every little bit you can. I was just seeing Michael Keaton talk about how you never regret it ever if you spend a little extra time with your kid. Uh,
Yeah.
you might miss out on a couple jobs, but you miss that. In terms of tips going across the country, McDonald's
Mhm.
French fries, my friend.
Yeah.
McDonald's French fries with all their arsenic is a dad's best friend.
Yeah. Definitely. Going back to your first point, yeah, we talk a lot about work-life balance and like it's kind of a dichotomy of like sell work, making time, making. I mean, obviously we have to work, and provide
Yeah,
for our families. We have to, and find that, but on top of that, find balance to work on yourself or be, keep yourself, sane in who you are and being exploring those things, and also find time for that. So it's like finding that balance. In some week it might be a little more this way, some week it might be a little more that way, but in the
yeah.
end, on the balance, finding that doing the best you can with all those, and like hopefully creating a situation where you can find the extra time to be with your family, and then some days and finding the extra time to work on your own thing, and
Exactly.
being able to have the financial means. Hopefully, you can work, you can
Or
support
just
all that as well.
the most important means to have if you don't have it financially is just to have a really resourceful
Hmm.
and devoted partner who's putting your creative stuff and making sure that you're putting each other's creative stuff out there first. My wife is a co-director of the show. It's her and Chad.
Hmm.
And she is phenomenal. Allie Miller Fisher is one of the most unstoppable creative minds. She inspires respect. She's capable. She's proficient. She's economical. She's inspired. She's no BS. And she is a very passionate artist and mother. So,
Yeah.
like, to have this person, I let her steer the shit. I've made my contribution. In the case of our child, it was a certain amount of semen. In the case of this show, it was it was the script and the music, the lyrics. But you know what? None of this would happen without her. And so your resources or wherever you find them. In this case, I don't have millions of dollars, so I can't just have a babysitter. So instead, we just have to have the most copacetic tag team that we could possibly do at any given second. And it sucks. And it's hard. It always is hard. It never gets easy.
That's
Ever.
worth it.
Maybe later. Maybe when he can sit
Eventually.
down with the whatever it is, a Switch, and he can just sit there like
Yeah.
going off and
You know,
Minecraft or whatever.
yeah. Some days my son just sits on my lap and play Roblox on the Chromebook, and I can be on my phone or whatever, and that's what he wants. He just wants
Isn't that
proximity and all
heavenly
that.
though? Isn't it cool
Yeah.
just to be able to sit back and have your son just chill out on you like
Hmm.
that? Isn't that fun?
It's the best ever.
Best ever, man.
All right. Well, that wraps up another episode. Michael, thank you for joining us. Where can people find you and about your show?
Okay, yeah. Come check us out. Let's see. I am or let's see. What to do first? Exorcistic musical. Is it exorcistic underscore musical? Is the hashtag or the
The at thing.
yeah, the Instagram exorcistic underscore musical, and follow us there, as well as go get tickets for the show at HRS Productions LA.com.
Is on Eventbrite as well.
Yeah, and it's on Eventbrite, absolutely.
Excellent. And what better way to spend the Halloween spooky season than singing about mothers sucking cocks in hell?
You know what? Your cunting daughter is another fantastic song.
Oh my god, yeah, that's another one. I'd be like, I can't keep saying that word, but they're like, what she did, your content daughter. Like it's
I mean,
it's the earworm.
that's pretty good. That's it. And Emma Hunton sings the hell out of that. She is a tour de force in this.
Yeah, I was hoping, because I want to ask her how the hell she's able to do like all those things she does, because it's an amazing performance. Not to go too far off, but because she plays the innocent daughter so well, and then
Yeah.
but then she just flips on the dime, and I was like, how did you find this actress that could, or how many actors did you audition for that role?
We didn't. I mean, Emma Hunton. Here's the thing. Like, I was gonna do the album, and I knew that I was gonna do the album, and I approached Emma and I was like, "Is this something you might be interested in doing?" And like, I played her like a track from it. I think it was maybe the Exorcism, where it's just like Sodom and Gomorrah, enjoy your sin and never cease to be. And she sings that song, which is like, and it's just howling, like, whoa, whoa. It's like operatic and this like powerful. And she listened to that and she was like, shit, that's pretty good. And so she came back and I think was like willing, she wanted to be a part of it. And it just kind of became clear that nobody was going to be able to shred that like her. Like nobody. And she was down to do it. And then also to do the show, which was a whole thing because we wanted to make sure we had right.
It's so physical.
The recording and then the physical, and she's already physical like that. Like, I mean, keep in mind, Emma Hunton she's done Elphaba on Broadway. She's done Spring Awakening on Broadway. I mean, she is just a beast, and she's on a freaking TV star. So she's like, I want to do something that I love. That's why I want to do this show, because I love this part, because I love the team, and she just loved the songs.
That's great.
And she sings it from the bottom of her beautiful soul.
Yeah.
And there's so much of her in this show. It's all over the show. She's also the producer as well. And this production would not exist without Emma Hunt. Period.
That's awesome. All right. Well, we appreciate everyone for listening. We would really appreciate if you could give us a rating or review on iTunes, a rating on Spotify, and check out our YouTube for videos of these podcasts. With that, we thank you for listening to Dads from the Crypt.
Follow Dads from the Crypt on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or I will follow you to the grave. No, seriously, you really should watch. But be careful what you ask for. You may get it.